What's up, guys? Just finished rolling here with the students. This is the 4th round, so we did 3 quick rounds, and I wanted to share something with you guys. Catch my breath a little bit. So, want to talk about what I would tell myself if I was a white belt. My advice to my white belt self. All right, there's a lot to say, but I'll try to sum it up in like 5 minutes. First things first, I would tell my white belt self that consistency is the most important thing, not rolling rounds. I used to go hard all the time and just try to roll as hard as I could, as much as I could. And then I'd get beat up the next day, and I wasn't willing to learn. It was like I just wanted to roll. So I would tell my white belt self, less rolling, more drilling, more studying, and more consistency. I'd rather be 4 or 5 consistent days out of the week than 1-2 hard rolls. That's probably where I would start. The second thing I would tell my white belt self is to not quit judo. I started judo jiu-jitsu at the same time, and I quit judo. And I'm paying for it now, so I wouldn't quit judo. I would stay with judo. I would have finished training with all the guys that I started with in Laredo, Sensei Cuellar, Ronnie, Felipe, Javi, all those guys who started with the stand-up. So I would have started judo, would have continued working with judo. I would have also not quit striking. I had started striking a little bit after I started jiu-jitsu in about 2009, 2010. Started with Professor Javier Duque Brown, and I loved it. And of course I stopped because I wanted to get more rolling for competition. So looking back, it was pretty foolish. I was pretty young and dumb. So I would focus on not quitting judo, not quitting Muay Thai and boxing, and probably join a wrestling club. Even though we didn't have a wrestling club, I would have looked online for the closest one in the nearest city and just gone there once a month. I would have got a group of my friends, Mike and Bobby Turner, you know who you are, and I would have wrestled with them once a week. So my ideal schedule, my white belt self, would have been once a week wrestling, once or twice a week judo, once or twice jiu-jitsu, 1 to 2 times boxing and Muay Thai. I would also tell my white belt self to not quit any of those sports, to compete as much as possible in all of those sports. I did my first judo competition around the same time I did my first jiu-jitsu competition. I actually medaled in judo. Even though I didn't take anyone down, I used jiu-jitsu, but that's besides the point. I would have stayed with judo. I would have done a boxing amateur fight and a Muay Thai amateur fight, and I would have wrestled more with Mike and Bobby Turner. That's right, Mike, I'm talking about you. I would have started wrestling and stayed consistent wrestling as a white belt, and maybe do like a club wrestling match as a white belt. This would have set the foundation of my martial arts and combat sports journey. Those are some things I would have told my white belt self. Don't quit judo, don't quit boxing, don't quit Muay Thai, and don't quit wrestling. And I would have done them all together. So instead of just getting a black belt in jiu-jitsu, I would have accomplished black belt in judo, hopefully. I would have accomplished more wrestling techniques, more mastery of that art, more boxing and Muay Thai mastery of that art. And I would have told my white belt self to just focus on all these, to stay consistent, to, even though I'm young, to really focus on my diet, because I would eat whatever I wanted back then. And now that I've gotten older, I focus more on my diet because I can't afford to eat what I want. I would have not stopped lifting weights. I stopped lifting weights a long time ago when I was naturally good at it. Before I did jiu-jitsu, I was in powerlifting, did pretty well, and I stopped lifting for a long while, and now I lift again, because when you lift, a stronger version of yourself is a better version of yourself. So those are some of the basic things I would have told my white belt self. Stay consistent, don't quit those other arts, focus more on drilling than rolling, focus on all aspects, which included judo, wrestling, boxing, Muay Thai, and of course Jiu Jitsu. And focus more on drilling instead of rolling. And also focus more on studying Jiu Jitsu. Enough people don't study it because they're bored, because it does get boring, and because they just want to come and roll, which is fun. Don't get me wrong, rolling is fun and it needs to be done. But over rolling and over sparring, I think just kind of wastes some time. I mean, if you're not getting ready for a competition, you really should be studying all aspects of the combat sports game. And so that's my advice to my white belt self. I would have done more private lessons with the professionals in each aspect: judo, wrestling, jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai, boxing. I would have traveled more and spent more time learning from the best. Nothing wrong with the group I learned with. In fact, the group I learned with were great guys. We started a jiu-jitsu club back in 2006, and they did great things, and they helped me establish my jiu-jitsu foundation. Great stuff. But I definitely would have told my white belt self to travel more, to learn different aspects of the art. I would have told myself that it's okay to follow the path of jiu-jitsu. When I was white belt, I was scared of doing this full time, so I was in denial and didn't focus on jiu-jitsu. I always treated it as a hobby because society told me that it had to be a hobby and not a profession. In fact, I got made fun of from some friends and family members, and they said jiu-jitsu was, you know, a joke and a hobby. And then here I am, doing pretty good. So I'm glad I didn't listen to them. And I'm actually glad they told me that because it helped push me. But I would tell my white belt self to focus on jiu-jitsu. Okay, I went to college, got my bachelor's and got my master's. I was the first one in my family to graduate from college. It was very difficult for me, actually. But looking back, I would have still done my undergrad, probably just focused more time on jiu-jitsu. And probably not got my master's, to be honest. But it's okay. Life took me that journey. Probably would have told my white belt self not to get a full-time job like I did, because then I got stuck for a few years in that profession. But again, I can't change everything. I would just motivate my white belt self to train jiu-jitsu more and to travel more, drill more, learn more of the art, and just embrace this lifestyle. Because for a long time, I was, like I said, in denial of following my path. And so white belt self, white belt Tony, stay consistent, stay focused, don't quit. Judo, boxing, Muay Thai, wrestling. Focus more on drilling, less on competition. Focus more on studying positions. Focus more on traveling, private lessons with masters of their crafts like black belt instructors, and really shadow and learn some of the business side from some of these individuals. Focus on the diet, and really the bottom line and the main point here is really embrace the jiu-jitsu lifestyle early on as a white belt, and I probably could have got my black belt faster, to be honest, and multiple disciplines. So I hope you guys enjoyed this advice to my white belt self. Do what you want with it, and even if you don't jiu-jitsu, train someday, and you can also apply this advice to other things in your life. If you were to look back at your younger self, what would it be? Hope you guys enjoyed. What advice would you get? Here's what I'm gonna do. I want you to answer this question. Thanks, Rico. You're right. Not everyone can say they're doing what they love. I absolutely love what I do every day, and the only regret I have is not starting sooner. So thanks, Rico. Your support means all the world, bro. For the rest of you, comment. What would you give your younger self? What advice would you tell your younger self? What differently would you do? How would you do it, and why? It doesn't have to be jiu-jitsu, it could be anything. Looking forward to reading the comments. Much love. You guys take care. See you soon.